Mexico lost. Their 40-year wait for a quarterfinal continues. And if you only look at the scoreline, 3-2, you'd think this was just another chapter in the same old story. Another near miss. Another so close, yet so far. It wasn't. What Mexico did against England deserves to be remembered as one of the best performances of this entire tournament, win or lose, and almost nobody is talking about it that way. Let me show you why. Because the story here isn't the scoreline. It's everything that happened around it. Let's rewind to before kickoff. Mexico came into this game unbeaten. 4 wins, 0 goals conceded, a perfect group stage that nobody saw coming from a co-host with this much pressure on them. They followed that with a round of 32 win over Ecuador, their first World Cup knockout win in 40 years. England, meanwhile, arrived dominant on paper but shaky in practice, a group stage draw with Ghana, and a genuinely dramatic escape against DR Congo, where they trailed at halftime and needed a Harry Kane brace in the final 15 minutes just to survive. Add in the setting, the Estadio Azteca, nearly 7,500 feet above sea level, a sold-out crowd that had been building toward this fixture for weeks, and even a weather delay that pushed kickoff back an hour due to thunderstorms in the area. Every ingredient was in place for Mexico to either fold under the occasion or rise to it. They rose to it, and by the time the final whistle blew, England's players weren't celebrating like conquerors. They were on the ground in relief, like a team that had just escaped something. Here's the stat that should be the headline of this match, and instead got buried under the final score. At halftime, Mexico had 63% possession and led the shot count 7-3. Against England, the team with elite passing numbers all tournament, over 2,000 passes a game, nearly 70% line-breaking accuracy. Mexico didn't sit back and hope for a smash-and-grab counter. They took the game away from England for long stretches, playing the exact same front-foot, aggressive football that got them through the group stage without conceding a single goal. Think about what that means. This wasn't a Cinderella team parking the bus and praying. This was Mexico imposing their identity on a side ranked among the tournament favorites, in that side's own supposed moment of truth. The scoreline says England dominated this match. The run of play says the exact opposite happened for large stretches of it. So how did Mexico end up behind? 2 moments. A Jude Bellingham double in under 2 minutes, the kind of quick-fire brace that decides tournaments, flipped a game Mexico was winning territorially into a deficit. That's not a tactical breakdown on Mexico's part. That's world-class individual quality from one of the best young players on the planet, compressed into 99 seconds. It could have happened to any defense in this tournament. This is the part that gets completely buried under the final score group. That's a squad that trusted its own game plan even in the worst possible moment of the match. Then, after Harry Kane's penalty pushed England back to a 2-goal cushion in the second half, Mexico answered again. Raul Jimenez, ice cold from the spot, made it 3-2. 2 separate times England scored, and 2 separate times Mexico had an immediate answer within minutes. That is not a team getting outclassed. That's a team trading blows with a top-ranked side across 90 minutes and refusing to let the gap become insurmountable. Look at the individual battles underneath those goals too. Gilberto Mora, still a teenager, was directly involved in creating danger throughout. The kind of performance that gets a young player linked with a move to a club like Real Madrid. Ricardo Alvarado's crossing all night, whipping balls into dangerous areas, forced saves out of Jordan Pickford. Luis Romo controlled tempo through midfield well enough to rack up his own shot from range in the first half. This wasn't a one-man show carrying a broken system. It was a full team performing above expectations, position by position. When Jarell Quansah picked up a straight red card in the 54th minute for a reckless, studs-up challenge, this game should have been functionally over as a contest. A 10-man side against a home team with 60-plus thousand fans generating noise that had reportedly not let up since kickoff. That's usually a formality. Instead, it became the truest test of which team actually had the better plan for this match. For the final 35 minutes plus stoppage time, England didn't have a tactic anymore. They had a bunker. Mexico laid siege, wave after wave of pressure, sustained attacking with a numerical advantage in front of a crowd that sensed history. Jordan Pickford ended up as England's best player down the stretch, not because of any tactical setup, but because of pure individual goalkeeping under siege. England didn't see out this game with a tactical masterclass. They saw it out by hanging on. If Mexico gets one more bounce in that final half hour, and by every account of the run of play, they created enough pressure to deserve one, we're not talking about a 40-year drought continuing tonight. We're talking about one of the great World Cup upsets, and every network is running a completely different highlight reel. Now, some of you are going to say, control and possession stats don't matter if you don't get the result. And you're not wrong to say that results are what get remembered in history books. Mexico is still out. England is still through, on their way to face Norway in the quarterfinals. That part of the story is fixed and unchangeable. But there's a difference between losing because you were outclassed and losing because two moments of individual brilliance from a world-class opponent went against you, in a match you controlled for large stretches, against a team that finished the game just trying to survive. One of those is a team that needs to go back to the drawing board. The other is a team that just played one of the best games of the entire tournament and has absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. Mexico is that second team. And if you rewatch this match without checking the scoreboard first, I don't think most neutral fans would guess which team actually went home. 40 years without a quarterfinal is still 40 years. That part of the story doesn't change tonight, and it shouldn't be minimized. This team, this coaching staff, and this country wanted more, and they deserved a real shot at getting it. But if you actually watch this game instead of just reading the final score, you saw a Mexico team that led the shot count at halftime, controlled long stretches of possession against one of the tournament's most talked about sides, answered every single England goal almost immediately, and spent the final half hour laying complete siege to a team hanging on with 10 men and a goalkeeper playing out of his mind. That is not what a 3-2 defeat usually looks like. Mexico didn't lose this game tactically. They lost it to two brilliant minutes from one of the best young players in the world, and nothing else about their performance deserves criticism. This group of players just delivered the best World Cup performance by this program in 4 decades. And they did it in a losing effort, which is exactly why nobody's giving it the credit it deserves. I just did.